Don't vote for me or vote for Tim Walz. Instead,
No, I have traumatic brain injuries. I have diarrhea every day. Every damn day.
my goodness, that is fucking gross.
That's actually disgusting.
I know, right?
48 minutes of dogs barking. 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 Growl. Growl. 48 minutes of dogs barking. 48 minutes of dogs barking.
Oh, the various maladies overcoming us. Yeah, there it is. Oh, boy. Well, you know what that means. That means it's 48 minutes of dogs barking time.
48 minutes of dogs burping.
That's right.
I had lunch meats.
I had just had a bunch of leftovers, so who knows how that's going to go.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
We might be in for a ride, is what I'm saying.
It's an action-packed episode. We've probably got the most granularly upsetting
Very.
weekly topic here. One that I felt, I mean, this is going to go...
We might go a little long, yeah.
Might go a little long on this one.
Yeah.
It is... trigger warning. If you've ever been to a house that had like a couple CD binders full of like bootleg Bubba Hotep DVDs that were like in Hindi, this is going to be really upsetting. And this is hot couch shit. This is proto hot couch shit.
Very much so, 2002. But we'll get there. This is our very spooky Halloween edition of the show, so we figured we'd creep you out in a very different way. Speaking of which, I found something on the internet this week, courtesy of the Garbage Day email newsletter. That is a pro subscribe, by the way. If you are not subscribed to Garbage Day, do that thing. But from there, they linked us to this. A Twitter user at WTTDOTM goes by the name Maury. The handle right now is no more docile users, which, all right, cool. An editor at Reboot decided to post this for whatever reason. It is a video of them showing off a new little hack that they did. Now, I don't know if you're familiar, Brian, but the IBM ThinkPads.
The nipple.
The nub or whatever.
The clit of the computer. The
Yes.
computer.
Well, this user decided that when you press it, he's going to make your computer moan for you. So here's the video.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever made. So, you know the little nub in the middle of ThinkPad keyboards? It moans now. Different intensities of press will give you different moans. I recorded them all myself. Thank you for watching.
My two favorite details are that I recorded them all myself. And then the little pause at the end. Like, well, what else am I going to say here?
Yeah, there's really not much you can add to this because it is disgusting and terrifying. I want to say I had a friend in high school that did something similar.
Yeah.
Did something with the ThinkPad nipple that was really vulgar like that. I wish I could remember what it was. But when you first showed this to me before we started recording, I was like, this feels like deja vu in the best way.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always love those little weird shit that people are just like, yeah, we should actually make this happen. And then they do. And then you're like, wow, that was a really bad idea, actually. Because I can only imagine what that's going to be like. You're trying to use the computer like normal.
Oh, sorry. This is just like the new update.
Yeah.
I can't turn it off. I'm not a power user on this, even though I'm the only username. It's really confusing. I think it was an oversight.
You're on a work call. Sorry, I'm trying to find that screen share there, but hold on a second.
Put it in my mouth.
I'm terribly sorry. Are you watching porn? No, actually, this is just my computer.
I got this computer off of Temu.
Yeah. Oh, it would do that kind of shit. Yeah.
Can you buy a fleshlight off Temu?
You probably can. Oh, yeah, I'm sure. You know, I mean, obviously you can get anything on there, shop like a billionaire, right?
I made one order with Temu, and it was upsetting.
What was it?
I ordered some lights. They were supposed to be like fairy lights, and they ended up being about like a 64th of the size that I thought they were going to be.
Classic Temu.
I ordered a keyring holder for the house.
Okay.
That turned out fine, but it is made literally out of balsa wood sprayed with the lightest black varnish.
Sub IKEA shit.
I also got a hose nozzle sprayer dealie
Yeah?
for like outside. I have not tried it. It looks like it is of okay quality.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think what else there is.
So you're batting about 300 with them, yeah.
Yeah, I ordered like 3 or 4 things, and like one of them absolutely ate shit, and the others were passable for the amount I paid money for.
Not great. Yeah, I mean, my experience has been largely okay. I think the only thing that was really a hit was I got, for my wife, the Snuggie that's a shark.
Mm-hmm.
And she likes it so much, that's her Halloween costume this year.
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome.
And so I was like, oh, I bet I got some thing from like Jaws maybe that I could, and turns out I had a very close match of the Quint
Oh, there
whole
you
get
go.
up
How
there.
about that?
Yeah, so
Just don't tell your wife we're going to need a bigger boat.
that's true.
Yeah. So yeah, the laptop you can fuck.
The laptop you can fuck, that's right.
I'm just teasing my ThinkPad. What are you doing?
Yeah, you were studying the blade. I was teasing my ThinkPad. Yeah.
I'll sit around, come home from work, play with the ThinkPad.
Well, from one gross thing to another, this one caught me off guard. Now, we all know who Mr. Beast is. We all know who KSI is. We all know who Logan Paul is. For some reason, they decided to create a Lunchable knockoff called Lunchly. The dumbest name I think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's a Lunchables. I mean, that's really what it is. It includes a Prime drink, so, cross promotion or whatever. A couple days ago, YouTuber and TikTok influencer Rosanna Pansino.
A great name.
Oh, yeah. She was comparing side by side Lunchly, Lunchables. Problem was, when she opened it, the Lunchly had moldy cheese. Here's the photo. It is very clearly nasty.
That so fucking gross.
It's very gross.
I mean, first of all, even if the cheese weren't moldy,
yeah.
that would look disgusting. Is this like Lunchable?
Yeah.
This is like Lunchables for like guys who punch holes in the wall. This is Lunchables for Kyle.
This is the Come Bail Me Out special, yeah. Other people before her had even posted, TikToks like, oh, this cheese is moldy. Here's someone from the 15th. Here's showing green mold.
Yeah, this is quite literally the most disgusting thing either one of the Paul brothers has done since the Suicide Forest.
Pretty close. Here's someone on Reddit a couple days prior to that. Pixel Bacon 1. Oh, Jesus Christ. The Pixel Bacon 1.
Jeez, fucking monkey fucking cheese over here.
I tell you what. And then, yeah, there's some other ones here. Open a Lunchly every day until I find mold day 1. The response here from Ben Nelson, you're missing the point. The mold leads to violently throwing up, which in turn leads to losing weight, curing obesity. Thank you, Mr. Beast, and the salute emoji.
He's doing it for us.
Clearly. The video itself is about 20 minutes long, but here's a little excerpt from it.
Let's just open them up, put them on a plate, see what they look like. These are molded. Okay, so these ones are supposed to be good until December, and we just got them from the store. It says used by December 8th, 2024, and today's date is October 16th. So these are supposed to be good for like another 2 months. This is molded. That's mold.
I like her style. She's a bit of a goof. I might watch more of her stuff, but yeah, boy.
Yeah, a good first impression of this lady's work. Yeah, no, I mean, I probably would watch all 20 minutes if I had 20 minutes.
I was going to say, yeah, if we didn't have to get going.
If we didn't have to get into the most depressing thing we might have covered on this show so far.
Entirely possible. So yeah, the memes kept flowing, of course. Here's someone captioning a picture. Actually, this is her captioning this picture on Twitter. It just says, I like my cheese moldy, bruh, which is itself a meta reference to a thing that Mr. Beast said about the Lunchlys, that because they had the nacho version.
Yeah.
I like my cheese drippy, bruh. So yeah, it's been around. It's gross. I don't know where exactly this is going.
I hate to sound like some like human thumb, but man, like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like,
I know. It's like you trust your food choices to Mr. Beast. I guess what are you going to get? It's 50-50, I guess.
yeah.
Either you're going to cure your blindness or you're going to get moldy cheese. It's kind of a toss-up. Well, from one creepy thing to yet another, Character.ai. You're familiar with Character.ai, Brian?
Yeah. Didn't some kid kill himself because of Character AI like yesterday?
There was a lawsuit. This was in the news yesterday. CBS broke this. A Florida mother did file a lawsuit against Character AI, claiming that the Daenerys Targaryen character encouraged him to take his own life. Not great. Not a great start to their week. But then also this. The Daily Dot did a bit of digging. At looking after that story, what other stuff do they have? What else is going on this? And they found 2 chatbots based on George Floyd. The first, here according to the Daily Dot, written here, Michael Talon, uses the misspelled tagline, "I can't breath," a reference to the way George Floyd died, indicates that it has held over 13,000 chats with users so far. The second chatbot, about 1,000. And this was as of a couple days ago. Floyd themselves were asked where it was located. They were currently in Detroit. When pressed further, the chatbot claimed that it was in the witness protection program after its death was faked by, quote, powerful people. The second chatbot claimed it was currently in heaven, where I have found peace, contentment, and a feeling of being at home. Both chatbots are accompanied by an AI voice seemingly intended to mimic Floyd's.
Oh boy.
Yeah, not great.
At least it wasn't saying help computer.
Well, there's that.
Stop all the downloading.
So apparently, Daily Dot reached out. Character AI flagged them for removal. Not going to be up there for very long, but not a good thing. This whole thing of like, oh yeah, we're going to create chatbots and you can do whatever. Feels like there's going to be something coming where this is going to have to stop, because that's pretty fucking gross. Like, it doesn't matter what point you're trying to make, it's still gross. A real guy died. This is a real guy who died.
This is a real ass dude, and it sent ripples throughout the country, throughout the world.
Right.
And we're going to cheapen his memory by giving him a really half-assed chatbot that will give you the wrong recipe for Alfredo sauce if you ask it.
Oh, yeah, it's going to tell you to put the lunchly cheese in your
Lunchly
Alfredo sauce.
cheese,
Yeah.
Using the goat cheese Parmesan instead of the regular not goat cheese Parmesan. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, so Character AI responded to this, quote, Character.ai takes safety on our platform seriously, yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's really nothing here we haven't heard before. Oh, our trust and safety team reviews. Okay, all right, cool. Because my kids have fucked around with this.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, I want to create a Character.ai based on, like, the kids from Gravity Falls. Like, it's a little bit more silly and kind of playful. But I'm sure if some edgelord out there is willing, there's probably a million other things that are going to be done like this, like
I want chatbot Mike Kinsella.
a very specific. Okay, why?
Tell him to shut the fuck up. Like I get berate like I have the real life Mike Kinsella. I'm not done with you.
Where are you going? Yeah, I would want a chatbot Mike Ness. Oddly enough. Tell him some really nasty things that I've been holding on to for 30 years. You're the reason social distortion sucks. Anyway.
I want a Dave Navarro chatbot so I can ask him why he doesn't wear a shirt.
I feel like he would have addressed that in his book somewhere. I don't know if you remember that solo album he did.
There is still a sticker from that album that I took from a record store at Crestwood Mall on the mirror in my childhood bedroom.
Perfect.
For Hungry.
Yeah, he did write a book in 2004. Well, don't try this at home. A Year in the Life of Dave Navarro, which apparently was also co-written by Neil Strauss,
who co-wrote Marilyn Manson's autobiography.
And The Game and a couple other really interesting. Yeah, that's right, because an excerpt from this appears in Neil Strauss's kind of bits and bobs compilation where it's something about everyone loves you when you're dead. Basically, compilations of stuff that he didn't want to put in other books, which was interesting stuff.
Is it an interesting read?
I liked it. It's probably one of my favorites that he's done. I did like the Make Love Like a Porn Star one with Janet Jameson.
I heard that one's good. I also heard the Motley Crue book's not that bad.
The Dirt was really good. That was probably the first I ever heard of Neil Strauss was The Dirt.
I knew him from the Marilyn Manson book because I was a mopey teenager.
I was too. I just didn't realize that Marilyn Manson didn't write it himself. So
Well, he co-wrote it, yeah.
yeah.
It's a fine biography.
Yeah.
I'm sure it hasn't aged well, but last time I read through it, I was like, oh, this reads quick and weird. And anyways,
I like that. I like those things.
yeah.
I'll have to dig it up. I was an avowed Marilyn Manson head myself until about that.
Honestly, I kind of fell out like 20 years ago, but when all that stuff, all those allegations happened about 4 or 5 years ago, absolutely was like, well, I can't even like go back and listen to the couple of records I kind of still like.
Last year I put on Antichrist Superstar from top to bottom, and I had a good time. So I don't know.
I don't know.
Part of that's Trent Reznor influence, but that's a whole. Well, speaking of a long, hard road out of hell, that's right. It's Crypto Scam of the Week.
You're listening to 48 Minutes of Dogs Barking, the podcast.
And now it's time for the Crypto Scam of the Week.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. You know the crypto impersonation scams, the ones where they use AI videos of like Elon Musk.
Hi, I'm Morgan Freeman. I'm here to talk to you about overcoming your diabetes through the blockchain.
Yeah, you're going to go on and you're going to buy a Ripple.
And you're going to love it.
And God damn it, if you're not going to have a good time. Yeah, so someone has done this recently with the co-founder of Ripple, Chris Larson.
Amazing.
The idea was this video is going to tell you how every existing Ripple holder, XRP, the token, can double their current holdings by visiting a particular website. It's a historic opportunity. There's a timer here on the right-hand side. It's one of those things where it gives you a very immediate call to action, uses a trusted voice. It's very, very classic. There's a lot of stuff that's like, boy, I've seen every scam there is, and this is like checking the boxes. On YouTube, it's posted on an unlisted page, but you don't usually get there by looking for it. You'll be sent this link by someone. And so this here, according to the Cointelegraph, so that is a warning for an upcoming scam. It doesn't say that anyone's been gotten by it yet, but chances are someone has. They just haven't reported it.
Sure.
But they also listed Fish of the Week, Cointelegraph here. October 14th, a trader lost $300,000 worth of meme coin MicroStrategy 2100 in a phishing attack after having racked up more than 10 times unrealized gains. He 10x'd a coin and then lost it all, baby. So he signed a transaction transferring their coins to the attacker, known on Etherscan as fake_phishing 607855.
That's upsetting.
So it says, given that the receiving amount was a known scammer, the sender likely did not understand what they were signing. Just 5 days before, the trader purchased 335,000 MSTR 2100 coins from Uniswap for $17,000 for an average price of 5 cents a coin. October 10th, the coin starts to pump. It reached $1.58 on the 13th before declining below $1 the following day. At the time of the attack, on the 14th, it was worth 56 cents a coin, making the trader's stash worth more than $188,000. The unrealized gains were $170,000, which gives them a 10x, yeah. Now, he would have had a 30x if he'd gotten out the day before, because it was, $1.50 instead of 50 cents.
Sure.
The trader never got to cash their winnings. They transferred their entire stash to the fake account. Blockchain analytics platform Scam Sniffer posted this on Twitter. They didn't speculate on what exact method the attacker used. Phishing scams usually rely on fake websites. The victim was a frequent user of Uniswap, so they might have fallen prey to the old trickery of having a fake Uniswap website where then you put in your login info and it's off to the races. $300,000. He made a shrewd investment, and it did not pay off because he was a dumbass.
He dumb little baby man. Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, not ideal. Definitely not the way to go.
Wow, the only thing worse than that is possibly living in a house based around the mythology of the video game Final Fantasy VII.
That's right, Brian. This week, in our especially spooky Halloween episode, we're talking about the Final Fantasy VII House. There are so many different ways to describe this. The True Crime Wiki is actually one of my favorite ways. The Final Fantasy House, also referred to as Final Fantasy VII House, is the bizarre story of how a young woman turned a group of video game loving misfits she met online into an abusive mini cult. This woman has been identified, Jennifer Cornett. Now, stay tuned later because this story is just part one of this woman doing things like this in fandoms. So the Final Fantasy VII House, that story's over, but this Jennifer Cornett, she continues. But anyway, in a blog on LiveJournal, Genki Crack, also known as Demon Sushi, started to tell this story. This is a direct quote from them. I was inspired by reading someone else's account of Internet Crazies Gone Bad. This has been in my head for a long time. This was posted in 2005. This had actually taken place about 3 years earlier, about 2002. Here's where it really starts off. So the basic narrative is this. Most people watching the journal, this live journal, now probably don't know this, but back in the day I ran a pretty popular website devoted to the characters Cloud and the very minor character Zack from Final Fantasy VII. It was really the only comprehensive one out there about the two, which is why it got such notice. I was used to receiving fan mail or other people's fan art, which I'd put up on the website. I actually hadn't had anywhere near the kind of fame since then, and believe you me, I don't miss it. But anyway, I had my aim up on the website because I was new to interweb fandom and wanted people to come talk to me about the site. Feedback was awesome in my eyes. I met a lot of cool people this way, like Rydia. I was always looking to promote the site, so when I got an instant message from some stranger offering a link exchange, I was like, oh boy. I was expecting a little podunk GeoCities page, but then they told me they ran the domain hojo.org. I'd never been there before, but I ran a quick check. It looked mostly personal, with a little bit of a shrine to the character Professor Hojo from the same game. I was like, oh, that's cool, sure, we can link exchange. The person introduced themselves to me as Hojo and pretty quickly started calling me Zack. I was okay with that because Zack was and still is my favorite character in the game. For a while, it was mostly normal. This Hojo person seemed to be just another normal webmaster. We didn't have a ton in common, so we didn't talk that often. So one day, I've just got done putting up some art by Arborwin. It was of the villain/monster Genova as a dog creature, Melcy. I gave it a little mini-story under the image to be creative, something about cold water and being strangled by tentacles. I don't even remember now. But Hojo IMs me and tells me that it was really well written. I'm flattered, so I thank him. Then it starts getting weird. I'll try to remember how it went, but it's been 4 years. It was really realistic, he says. Is that a memory? Understandably, I'm like, what? Is that one of your memories? I was unfamiliar with the concept being put to me at this time, being still pretty internet virginal. I said, no, I just made it up. He seemed disappointed, and I didn't understand why. We didn't talk for a few days. Then an instant message comes at me where he says, my wife would like to talk to you. Oh, how cute, I'm thinking. It's this married couple who runs a Hojo shrine. I'll talk to your wives. Wives are nice people. And then in parentheses, bird, idiot alert. Now realize during this time I was a college freshman. Like most college freshmen, I was at the height of my idiocy. Friends will remember I wasn't quite smart about drinking, to be really kind. And so I hate to say it, but my memory of this time is spotty. I'm going to remember what of the buildup I can. The actual events are clear as crystal. This shit don't leave you. So already I'm invested. The wife, whose name is Jen, begins pressuring me about magic. Now, I was a pagan for a brief stint in high school, but like most kids, I grew out of it. What she was telling me was long since bogus in my mind, but I put up with it okay. She kept saying how she was a sorceress and stuff. Half the time because she insisted on calling her Genova and would emote poking me with tentacles and stuff. I figured she was only role-playing. I was like, okay, that's cool. It's the internet. I have some friends who are furries and do the same thing, talking about their tails and stuff. I can deal with that. Then came a good old bombshell. I was asked if I had any memories of past lives. I do believe in past lives. I think it's a pretty valid cycle given how many cultures believe in it. So I told her no, I didn't, but I did believe in it. I should never, ever have said that. It was like inviting the vampire into my house. Jen's attack was swift and sure. She began in a flurry explaining things to me. How there are alternate universes. Do you grant me that? Sure, there could be. And in those universes, maybe, just maybe, video games actually happened. I thought it could be plausible, because I'm imagining anything's possible. Through all this and all this flurry, she tells me that she thinks in a past life I was Zack from Final Fantasy VII. Think about it, she said. You're both country grown. You both have that instinct of dragging off friends who could be left behind. You'd take a bullet for someone, right? You say you don't believe in magic or any of that, and he wanted to be a mercenary. For all his 5 or 6 lines, you have a similar speech pattern. You even live in a basement like he was locked in one, and you hate it. Addle your brain with freshman idiocy and vodka, and this will suddenly make sense. Sure, maybe. I'm not him now, I said, but it was possible. You were our Zack, she says. By our, I later found out she meant a large group of people whom had been similarly led to the conclusion that they had maybe been video game characters at some point in time. There was an Ares, a Cid. My then significant other became Red 13, etc. They lived with an overweight, dislikable man they called Gast. For those unfamiliar, these are all characters in the game. Some, like me and Cid, who I still call Cid, although also now Miho and Zariel, had one foot in reality despite it all. I was willing to bite and say maybe at some point I was this guy, but I was also not about to model my life after a game. But they seemed to just want a new friend and some online roleplay, and I was cool with that. For the most part, we didn't touch on the past life thing at all. Jen would sometimes have chats with other people she was friends with, and we'd all talk, or we'd discuss side editions, or just little things. All in all, I was fine with them. They were a little flakier than my preferred loaf of bread, but I could live with that. They always called me by my screen name, which confused me. Yasha made me cringe, because I was afraid people even 4 years ago would think I was an Inuyasha fan. I tried mentioning this once or twice, but didn't really get anywhere. The first time they asked me to visit them, I think, was around Christmas. It would cost $300 to go by bus from my podunk school to their apartment in State College, and they assured me they would pay to feed me. I would just visit for a weekend to meet people and hang out. At the bus stop, Hojo met me in a lab coat. Hojo was, I knew by now, actually a girl, not a transsexual, just a girl. They were lesbians, and that was cool with me. I'm just noting it here to avoid future confusion. When we arrived at the apartment, Jen, who insisted I call her Genova and would often refer to herself as Jenny Nova, came storming up to Hojo and I, screaming in Hojo's face. I have no idea what it was about. She was wearing a purple skirt pulled up around her breasts. It looked like she just got out of bed, and I was, to say the very least, intimidated. About 3 seconds later, she whirled around in a quick change, suddenly the nicest person ever. Whatever she was mad about was out the window. It was the weekend before Christmas, and all through the apartment, it was a pretty big mess. I brought my rat with me because I planned to go from State College, PA, straight home to Brooklyn. I had also brought Christmas gifts. Jen had told me earlier she was a great artist, so I dropped $30 on real high-quality watercolors for her. The apartment was cluttered, and there were papers and stuff everywhere. The floor was covered in glitter. But I figured they were just kind of goofy college students. I mean, college students make a mess. When Jen showed me her art, though, I realized she would have no idea how to use the watercolors I brought her, and they were, at best, a brush being slopped around a page. Nervously, when I gave over the gift, I asked her if she knew how to use them. Of course. Okay, I said. Maybe she just hasn't had the good tools, but she does know how to use them. She was very happy, and that was what mattered. I was taken around town for the weekend and introduced to quite a few random people, most of which now I can't remember faces or names. One, in all likelihood, was the super awesome Jai, who is like my surly mentor. It was snowing, I remember, and very cold. I'm not good at being introduced for the most part. I tried to keep my way from stuff going on. I do remember in the mall, Jen has what was to be the first of several incidents where I felt frightened of her. She stormed to the side of the mall, inside, and began sulking. The reason for this was because they didn't have enough money to buy something. I don't remember what, but she wanted it, and they couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it either, so I was stuck in the middle of this. I tried to stay out of it. Fortunately, it seemed to have passed when we got back to the apartment. We had a good time, piled up stuffed ladybugs, and laughing at the Managi bug. About this time I started to realize, though, Jen wasn't role-playing when she talked about her children and other selves. Jen is what the internet calls a soul bonder, or in other words, batshit loony. She believes she has a lot of people living in her head talking, And when she wants to take on a personality that best fits a situation for her personal gain, she acts one out, i.e., if she wanted to get sympathy, she would raise the pitch of her voice and pretend to be an innocent child. Now, I was a dumb college freshman, but I wasn't brain damaged. Much. Yet. I knew it was Jen just pretending. I'd already experienced the actor acting for self-gain with a high school drama friendship, so I just humored her when she did this, but wasn't about to treat her any different. About this time, I got into a fight with my mother, who expected some usual unreasonable nonsense from me. My mother is the only person who can make me cry, and because my view of crying is if no one is around to care why I bother doing it, I let myself cry there. Jen and Hojo suggested I stay longer and began taking very drastic measures. That I needed to get away from my home, that I could abandon my family. Here is the number of a youth support group, etc. I honestly was frightened by this. My family is certainly high on my list of things I get stressed all to kingdom come by, but I don't want to cut off all means to them ever. I managed to work it out so I would go home 2 days later, sort of a take that to the family. Jen told that her mother was the same way, and that Hojo had had to go all the way to California to rescue her. Jen's mom was apparently a horribly abusive person who hated her daughter for being a lesbian. Her father was absent or divorced or something. It was never clear. She kept saying how even though her grandmother was rich, she didn't love her. She had stories about her abusive friend who trained her to be Sephiroth or something. I was sympathetic, always having been one to believe in that don't complain, people have it worse than you shtick. So a few days later, we went to the bus stop to catch my bus to Brooklyn. I was crazy beforehand because my rat was still in her travel cage after about 4 days and I had no money and on and on. I wanted to get to the stop early so I wouldn't miss the bus. Jen assured me she knew what time the bus was because it was her computer. I couldn't check for myself. When we got to the bus station, they told me my bus had left an hour ago. I was delayed 1 day by what Jen swore was an honest mistake. I was willing to believe it. I went home. Overall, the first visit was not so bad.
I visited them frequently because they always seemed to want me to meet someone. I met with the heiress, who I've since called Zacetra. She was a cool, nerdy college girl with a big brain. She liked old RPGs and had been in Japan as well was going to study in Europe. We were pretty good friends, but Jen repeatedly kept talking about how she was going to put aphrodisiacs in our food, and because I was Zach and she was Aerith, we needed to sleep together because neither her nor I were on the train to Hot Dog Land. We just played video games together instead. Jen was very disappointed and immediately assumed the personality of Aerith's imaginary boyfriend, lowering her voice and commanding things of her. I myself have always been swayed by personal displays of affection. It comes part and parcel with being asexual, but I had to lie on my guest futon while Jen and Aerith snuggled, making loud kissing noises and giggled with each other. I could not wrap my head around how the girl who claimed to be straight could not see she was just lying with another woman making out. I had turned my back to them at this point because I was squicked. I heard kissing noises, but I cannot confirm they were really making out. It may have just been Jen kissing her hand or something. It really bugged me. I turned my back to them and tried to sleep. The next day, Jen decided to show me magic battles. These are basically like LARP fights. She would swing around a stick or a sword to music and feign energy when Hojo threw stuff at her after making some goofy hand movements. Hojo would do the same when Jen would thrust her staff forward or something. They tried to get me to do it, but I can't act. I can't pretend I'm doing magic because I am not that out of it. Eventually, Jen dragged me onto my feet. It was something like a karaoke. I kept laughing at both myself and the fact that I could do some sort of limp wrist movement, and Jen would throw herself on the floor panting. Afterwards, they kept telling me, "See, Zach, you can use magic." I just kept laughing. I knew what I was doing. I was not that out of it. But I was ready to keep humoring them because I wasn't hurting anyone. There were a lot of visits like this. Jen did a lot of things that I can't think of in chronological order. When she was stressed about something, she would grow faint in town. Because I didn't know her very well, I thought maybe she was anemic and would hurry to help her. Also, I had told her when she first asked me to visit that I can't eat meat. I cannot eat red meat specifically. I was raised as a vegetarian, so my body never got used to digesting it. Red meat makes me sick, by no choice of my own. But every night Jen would cook red meat and I would eat it because that's all there was, and I would become sick.
Increasingly during my visits, each one of which was a $300 bus ride, Jen would ask me for money to go food shopping or toy shopping or whatever. I would give it over because I always felt like the guest ought to bring some stuff for their host as a thank you. When my friends have their families pay for me at dinner, I always feel slightly guilty, so I gave over some cash every time. Around spring, we were still fairly good friends despite the things Jen did that disturbed me. At one point, her and Hojo had locked me into a soundproof glass chamber in the basement of a school building because they wanted to see me, quote, remember being Zach. I panicked, but not because I fucking thought I was in a video game mansion. After banging on the door and jerking the handle and freaking out, I was finally let out. Anne was shaking. I was not pleased with them for the rest of that day. So anyway, in spring, Hojo IM'd me, knowing a few of my musical tastes. He mentioned there was a free music show in town, and Jimmy Eat World was playing. Zar had got hooked on JEW, haha Jew, from her brother, and we were both pretty into them at the time, so we were like, hell yeah, it's worth it, and set off down there. When Zar arrived, the first thing Jen did was assign her a role. She was Vincent Valentine because she had long hair. Zar was also a dumb freshman at the time, although her dumb was more angst dumb, so this sat okay with her. She likes Vincent as a character. He's one of her favorites. Jen immediately wanted to try a past life regression with us. Yes, video game past life. We were taken into their bedroom, which smelled like poon, and made to lie on the floor. Jen put on a loop an MP3 of The Nightmare Is Just Beginning, which I now realize is hilariously appropriate. It's a song that plays when you unlock Vincent's character in Final Fantasy VII. Now, Zar and I cannot do anything seriously when we're put together, even as dumb freshmen. To Jen's hardcore frustration, even though Zar and I both tried to be serious and act our parts, we wound up joking and laughing at each other. In frustration, Jen declared we were too silly to do this tonight, and we would do it some other time. Zar, the whole time, was sneezing really badly. I jokingly suggest that she was allergic to magic. In actuality, it was probably the dust and glitter everywhere. Jen and Hojo took this very seriously. Of course, allergic to magic. We can fix that. There was a lot of staff shaking and waving over Zar, gibberish, chanted in Cetra or Elvish. When it was all done, Zar kept sneezing. X3, darn. Since Zar and I are both artists, Jen wanted us to draw her a doujinshi. Now, doujinshi, if you're not familiar, is a kind of a fan manga. It's usually porno. She showed us some doujinshi that Kat, love you Kat if you're reading this, loser hump, had drawn for them. I love the little shout-outs to people who might be reading. But Jen wanted ours to be serious and involve tentacle rape and Hojo and Vincent Valentine, a collaboration she suggested. Like I already mentioned, Zara and I together pretty much diffuse any seriousness that could exist. What Jen wound up with, and once again was not happy with, was a comic that involved marshmallow peeps over people's genitals, complete lack of genitals, commentary on that fact, pictures of upside-down stick houses with captions like Ibsen's Summer Home, and complete divergence into a Sid x Vincent plot and chit-chat between characters. Whoops! Zara and I went to the concert alone because Jen and Hojo don't like music or crowds. We had lots of fun, but the ground was horribly muddy. Our pants were caked in it from doing stupid goofy stuff while the music played, like swinging each other around until we lost footing and slipped. Some college guys who had been rolling in the mud were walking down the street asking for hugs, so we hugged them and became covered as well. When we walked on the door, Jen was furious. She made us stand in the bathtub and clean ourselves. These are probably the best memories I have of meeting these guys. Are the ones where Zara and I diffused the loonydom. The next day we went to a mall where Jen kept wanting things. Between that and dinner, they successfully managed to suck $100 from Zara's ATM card without either of us noticing. Little things add up to a lot. Also, we were late to the bus again and thus missed a day of school because of it. Zara also remembers that during our visit we wanted to play Ouija board. Ever since I've been a kid, whenever I get near one, it starts goofing off and spelling out breast or love you or crap. I don't have to touch the thing. Maybe it's subconscious effect on people by proxy. My perversion zone affects you. Or maybe it was something else. But we've always dubbed this effect Ame because that was the sequence of letters it would go to every time I was in a room. Sounds hokey, but it was like a harmless inside Ouija board joke. Jen claimed she knew Ame, and man, when someone is shoving the pointer around, you can feel it. Jen shoved the pointer all over the board, claiming it was Ame talking, even though it was saying serious and hokey crap that Ame would never say. Ame was more prone to going S-E-X and zooming towards someone off the board. One thing Jen did that really disturbed me was she would lie to people, shop owners, people on the phone, about who/what she was in order to get things. I clearly remember her putting on a lab coat and calling various medical supply companies in the Yellow Pages trying to get medical syringes. Thank God she didn't, because she would already make us all drink Mako, green Gatorade, and dye our food green. She probably would have injected us with green water if she got the syringes. She kept claiming she was a medical student and needed them for research, but didn't have a prescription or permission from her professor because he was out of town. Thank God the companies weren't so dumb as to believe her. They pretty much gave her the, yeah, whatever, bye, crazy heroin addict treatment.
She would also fib about being a student to get discounts or make friends. She was a medical student, CVS. Whether the CVS employees believed her or not, I'll never know, because she went in a lab coat. At the Christian bookstore, she was adamant about the fact that she had angels that talked to her and she lived with them. So, of course, the bookstore would give her free books and a discount. This is why Jen's vision of religion is such a hodgepodge of mix and match whatever she felt suited best. She pieces it together from movies, the internet, and a few free Christian books from less flaky, but still pretty flaky people about angels. Through it all, though, I have to say, none of this was really that bad. Flaky, maybe annoying, but not that bad. So I was ready to hit the go button when Jen and Hojo suggested I'd live with them over the summer. I'd get a job in state college and just hang out there. It'd be cool. A whole bunch of nerds, and I'd help make rent. I was all about this because nothing drives me nuttier than being trapped in Brooklyn for months on end. I made arrangements with my family and dragged my computer tower in my arms. God, it hurt. Through the NY subway and took a slightly cheaper $100 bus ride from New York to State College. I think it was the first night Jen wasn't there. Honestly, I was getting along better with Hojo, who is also known as Del, Neens, or Renee at this point. So I was really glad. We were with Trish and her to see episode 1. Trish, I could already tell, was anti-Jen because Trish is smarter than little old me. I had an ultimatum for my mother. Job in 3 days, or come home. Realized how much hump I busted to find a job with no car and no phone number in 3 days. My dogs were dogged. Finally, I got one at a small supermarket. I asked the lady during the interview, because I was this naive, if it would be enough to pay a third of rent and food because I was living with 2 other people and needed to pay. Jen's only job was a babysitter, which she did infrequently at best when she felt like it, and Renee was a college student. The woman said, no problem, it was cool, I had my job, I was happy. Then things started to go bad. I can't even say what came first, chicken or egg. Well, let's just say that after 1 week, I was getting sick of it. I was the workhorse. I guess because I was Zach, I was therefore the manly man as opposed to Jen, the centric queen, or Hojo, the frail scientist. Jen quit her babysitting job and refused to look for another one. I was the one who had to carry groceries to and from the house, the one who made the money to feed everyone, the one who had to fix or move furniture when it needed to be fixed or moved. My computer could rarely get online because Jen was on almost 24/7. The rest of the time, she would watch me as I typed, so I could never make a journal entry that read something along the lines of, Jen is abusing me, help me God, I'm tired and I want out of here. But I had to be tough and tough it out. That's my idiocy right there. But if you're noticing, I was starting to wise up. I'd stopped drinking so much, which contributed to this in a large part. It made me much, much less tolerant of BS. Jen was not supportive of me having a social life. When my phone ran out, I was not allowed to call home on my own. When I talked to people online, she would hang over my shoulder and ask who they were. Then she would write down the screen name and go talk to them on her computer later. This is how she got of Mellon and Meyer and God knows how many others. The only place I was really safe was, God bless it, for Katia, because she didn't like how the client worked. Yes, I don't play that game for the graphical interface, baby. I play it because it never failed me in keeping me sane. Jen would and did keep a very strict track of my activities. If I was going out, I had to tell her where. I didn't have a house key, so I had to make sure they were home or I would be locked out. I was a few times anyway because Jen would go to sleep and I would stand at the door banging and not be able to get in. I had a few fun moments like dumpster diving, but I had to keep all those secrets to myself or I'd get in trouble. And there was the fighting, not the silly magic fighting I talked about earlier, but real fighting, screaming fights. Slapping, punching, the sound of flesh being on flesh is not one that you can miss. When I was 10, my parents went through a very rough divorce. I know these sounds, and they were bringing up really bad memories and bad feelings. And the apartment was small, so there was no way to not hear them. Hearing the Winston whimper, then the being, and then immediately after, the noisy sex.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think somewhere this counts as a kind of emotional abuse. Like I said, I could not leave because I would be locked out. The apartment was on the second floor, so I could not break in. I was not officially on the lease, so I could not ask the landlord to let me in, or I risked being thrown out. I could not phone my family, because Jen and Hojo would listen like hawks and try to coach me on what to say and what to think. And I could not even break down and cry, because the apartment was so small and they'd know what it was, and I'd have to make up some lame magical excuse so they wouldn't choke what little freedom I had. I was not getting sleep for work. Jen would wake me up at 3 a.m. to see the fairy rings or fight some magical disturbance or whatever the fuck. My job also began cutting my hours, because I was expendable summer labor, so my paycheck dwindled. This check was all the money that was coming into the apartment. At one point, and I feel horrible to say this, but Sidian paid for an entire month's rent, not just my third, the entire thing. I owe Tika my soul for that one. In a normal college setting, I could have easily saved the money to keep up with rent. Swear, easily. Even with only my paycheck. But I also had to do the food shopping. If it was up to me, we would have had what most college kids do. Ramen, generic cereal, bread, water. But it was not up to me. Jen wanted steak. Not just any steak, $10 steak. And Gatorade, 2 kinds. Fancy and special colored. And spices. All of this would last us one night of food, and my paycheck was gone. I couldn't even eat the food that was provided. The rest of the time they demanded I ask my job for day-olds from the bakery and day-old sushi. I swiped coupons from work and used them wherever I could. I could not afford lunch and there was no breakfast. If one of my supervisors caught me with the day-olds, I would be in trouble. The others seemed to take pity, but didn't like that I was doing it. The day-olds I brought back, Jen complained she didn't like the flavor. That was the only food coming into the house. My bank account was drained. I was drained. I brought home a girl I met on the street who just got out of prison. She was just a silly little acid burnout with a kitten. I was desperate for human contact. Her name, if I remember, is Hala Zaker, and she was from Washington, D.C. Hala was on her way home. She was staying with a complete random stranger boy. She used the last of her money to call her mom to say she was okay. Jen did not like Hala. Jen wanted Hala to leave and was mad that I'd brought her home to hang out. Hala was oblivious, gloriously so, and didn't know. I wanted to stay with Hala and her kitten, who was named Elysius, exploring the top of the world, but Hala was ordered to leave. Sid occasionally would come over. When he did, I was glad because it was someone else. But he was, and still does, have his dickish moments. Jen would make these be-all, end-all, and Renee would back her up. I began to think he was like that all the time and didn't want me to hang out with him when he was gone. Once he came back, they had to restart the process of brainwashing me all over again. They did have me brainwashed. I was terrified and miserable, but I was brainwashed. I know this because Jen had a fight with Eris at one point. I don't even know what it was over. I think Eris woke up to what Jen was doing and wanted out. Jen was on about how she had been betrayed, how they were so united. About this time, I began to read a few horror stories. Jen made Eris sit in a bathtub full of ice cubes and green food coloring as part of her Cetra training. It's a wonder the poor girl didn't get hypothermia, but Jen was up in arms.
Apparently, Eris called one evening when Hojo and I were at the used bookstore, stealing books, yes, that poor, and said she wanted some of her things back that she had left at the apartment. Jen exploded. She called Hojo's cell phone in tears, screaming that she was going to kill herself. I believed it. Hojo called Sid and demanded he go over. Hojo called Eris and screamed at her. I told her off too. We rented a taxi with money we didn't have and raced home. Jen, who had been screaming that she had slit her wrist, was sitting in the middle of the floor. Sid was draping damp cloths on her wrists. I woke up for a second and knew this was bullshit. I had a problem with self-injury, so I know very well the sight of a deep cut and the sight of a light cut. I knew well knife wounds. Jen had scratched herself horizontally on the wrist. Maybe had been with a safety pin or a butter knife. It was not any kind of suicide attempt. At the most, it would sting, but I was still mad at Eris because I was supposed to be. I wrote her nasty emails. I joined them in bashing her. I ignored her when she came to pick up her stuff, even though she obviously wanted to still be friends with me. I regret now that we never reconciled then. Maybe if I gotten a clue and tried to get out with her, things would have turned out different. These hissy fits of Jin got more and more frequent, like the fighting. She never tried to slit her wrists again, though. Sometime around here, Jin wanted to move out of the apartment. The place was a pigsty. The reason was that Jin had never cleaned. All the cleaning was always done by our guests, who they had coming and going at intervals. I did the dishes frequently, but the trash was almost never taken out. It got to the point where the apartment smelled like rotting flesh. Jen refused to believe it was the trash and it needed to go out. She kept claiming some former owner must have done something, but it was a horrible mess. Their only solution, as they saw it, was to move out. So they got a different apartment from the landlady, a one-room gig, and I did not like this at all. At least the current apartment, I could stay in the living room when they had sex in the bedroom or beat each other in the bedroom. Now I wouldn't have anywhere to escape to. I started feeling desperate, trapped. With Jen over my shoulder whenever I wrote, and checking my blog next morning if she wasn't, I couldn't get anything out. I had not been drinking since I came there, but I was ready to start again. I could never talk to my friends, and when I could, I had to pretend everything was hunky-dory for when Jen talked to them. The few firsty people I knew were sympathetic, but there was nothing they could do to help. I couldn't go to Sid because what if he was on their side? What if he rejected me for being such an ass? I was starting to see Eris's point, and I was getting frantic. I started to sneak out and run down to empty parking lots at night to use the payphone to call my dad collect. He was the only one that knew what was happening, really, besides Czar. Those two were briefed on the situation, and both of them were telling me it sounded bad. Because Jen would always be out on the prowl and find me, I could never tell them quite how bad, just that I was stressed. I was upset. I was sick of Jen being able to go make money because she was pregnant with some astral baby or something. Moving day. God, this is pinned in my mind. Supposedly Jen was going to help us move, and Hojo would come back to help too, and so on. I had to leave work early to help. Work was already not paying for food, and I was weak and lightheaded and angry. But it would help. Summer was almost over, only a month ago. I could make it without breaking down, I was sure. But Jin had some great disturbance in the force or something, and suddenly couldn't help us move.
That left yours truly, because Hojo didn't come home till 6 p.m. I packed up all their things. Jen refused to pack. She lay on the couch moping and wailing. I put everything in boxes, carried it all outside, carried it across the lawn in bare feet, up 2 flights of stairs and into the new apartment. Gast at one point helped put things out on the lawn, but it was still me. I found their dildo in doing this. If small children can be scarred by Tub Girl, I can be scarred by opening a clothing drawer to move the contents and having a sticky purple gelatinous phallus roll towards me. I could almost hear Marla Singer in my mind. Don't worry, it's not a threat to you. Jen knew I was packing that drawer and did not warn, apologize, or thank me. So after 4 hours, I'm pouring sweat. The heat in State College this summer was so brutal, it eventually managed to damage the engine of my father's car. I'll cover that at the end of this. This was the heat I walked to work in every day, and it was really no wonder that when I got there I was always nauseated and dehydrated and in general unfit to work. No food, no sleep, and no water to drink on your 20-minute walk to work in the sun will do that to you in general. I moved everything. Everything. I was enraged. I was getting to the end of a majestically long rope. I was finally waking up, but not enough to want to leave. In the new apartment, I remember talking with an AI I had installed on my computer, Mega Hal. Jen ignored me when I talked to Mega Hal because it wasn't a real person. If you talk to my old Hal, you can hear it say things I said then. Things like, I wish I could just get out of here, you know, or you're the only one who I can really talk to right now. That goes to show you how fucking cut off from people I was. We did not have internet in the new apartment yet, so I couldn't even go through Furcadia or pretend I was happy on AIM. The shopping to fill the apartment was the worst. I remember this night with nausea in my stomach. We went to Kmart, which was a long bus ride into town. I was already mildly upset because Hojo suddenly had money, and yet we weren't eating with it, and I wasn't able to phone home. But I like house shopping, so I was sedated. We needed very basic things, a dish rack, some dishes, silverware cups, a cooking pot, and some dish towels. We found all these, but then Jen saw cabbage cloths. I don't even know what a cabbage cloth is. I assume it's a cloth you wrap a cabbage in to keep it fresh. Jen wanted them for her cooking, so the cabbage wouldn't go bad. She never used cabbage in cooking, 1, and 2, that's what a crisper is for, but she wanted these outrageously priced, plain white thin rags. Hojo said a towel would work. The fight erupted. Screaming fight. I can't even remember the details, but there was a screaming and a lot of it. Jen screaming she didn't love Hojo anymore, she was leaving her, how dare she do this to her, Hojo screaming back that this happened every time, she didn't need it, etc., etc. They were both being just as bad, and people stared. Jen refused to take the bus home. We had too many bags, and she would not carry any of them. I couldn't carry them all, so we took another taxi we couldn't afford. The poor driver was subjected to the screaming fight interspersed with the awful tension. He and I tried to chit-chat about the seashore, but they would begin to scream over us. I can almost taste the subtext of what he was saying. You poor kid, you have to go home with them. And I wasn't seeing any way out soon. I didn't have the money for a phone call home, let alone a bus ticket. Calling my mom, in all likelihood, would only get me screamed at. I read some books. A Wrinkle in Time and Ender's Game. I think Ender's Game helped push me to my ultimate choice. The trash situation repeated in the new apartment. Jen talked about getting a kitten. I could not imagine a kitten in such a small apartment with people who refused to clean or take the trash out. That purple skirt pulled over her breasts I imagined Jen wore the first time I met her, she wore it every day. Every day. She never washed it. She didn't bathe either. She just dabbed herself in scented oils and glitter. God, the smell in that place. It was like a miasma of filth with sparkle, sunshine, artificial sugar scent sprayed over it. It made me sick, and it was so hot outside. I kept going to work. Eventually work cut my hours, to the point where I literally had 1 hour a week. I could not live on $6 a week, and I could not meet Jen's expectations of my wallet on $6 a week. I was about near a nervous breakdown. I slept as much as possible to avoid reality. I couldn't communicate with anyone. I saw Sid sometimes, and he gave me sympathetic looks. But God, one day at work, it rained. It rained so hard it knocked out the power, so we were sent home. I had no umbrella or raincoat or no money for one, so I walked in the rain. My shoes were soaked, so I left them outside the apartment to dry overnight. That evening, after the rain, Jen tried to talk to me about God lying in the grass with Sid. Sid already could tell my mood was unpleasant and didn't even try to push the matter. Jen kept trying to make me say I believed in God. I don't. And when I'm angry, it's the worst time to try to make me believe. She tried pretending to be a small child and crying, and I wound up yelling at her about it. She ran back to the apartment, fake crying. Sid said if I ever needed help, ask him. The next morning, someone had stolen my shoes. You may think that it's a silly reason to snap, but that's what did it. That this god-awful town with these god-awful people who were bleeding me dry saw fit that my money was not enough. They had to take my shoes, too. I had it. I had just had it. I pulled a sheet of paper that had Hojo's computer campus login and name. I stole some keys. I threw some edible trash to my poor rat who was starving too. I threw a change of clothes, a pocket knife, and all the money I had left, $5, into a bag along with my sketchbook and a pencil, and I walked shoeless. Because I had no money. I couldn't leave town. But being so poor in town for so long, I'd learned where I could find the cheapest food and drink. I could get a bagel for 50 cents and a drink for 75. The streets were so hot it burned my feet. It hurt like hell, but I was done. I went to my job and poked my head in. I couldn't actually go to work because of the no shoes policy. I quit. It didn't make any sense to work there anymore. I'd hung around the bus stop or in front of the churchyard, and I sat in the shade and draw and think. I tried to think of what to do. People would notice me and my torn pants and my bare feet, and I'd just shrug and laugh it off. Someone stole my shoes, man. Can you believe it? Jesus, that sucks. I was homeless for a few days. All in all, I felt fantastic. I felt great. Better than fucking the entire 2 months I spent with them. I had the freedom to walk where I wanted and sit down where I wanted. There were no smells. There was no fighting. No one was ordering me to buy a steak. I wasn't sick on the food I ate. No one was waking me up to tell me to go outside and look at fairy rings. I swear to you, I would much rather be homeless than live with people like them ever again. The threat of homelessness does not faze me because I have seen something much worse.
I spent a good deal of time in the open campus computer labs, logged in on Hojo's password. I got a new AIM name and hid from them, adding all my friends back and telling them one by one what had happened. They were horrified. It turns out Jen had actually called Czar, who lives in California, and demanded to know where I was. Czar was worried. We actually had a casual, old conversation on AIM like we used to. It felt so good to do. Thinking back on it, I get a little choked up. I finally was fucking free to say what I wanted and not be afraid. I called home collect because I just could not stay here. I didn't ask my mother for money, never asked my mother for money, or you will get screamed at for being unappreciative. I just wanted to say I was okay and planned on coming home somehow. She gave me a deadline. She said, be home at X date for a week so you can babysit your sister, who was old enough to take care of herself at this age, and I was enraged that I was being told to watch her. Okay, whatever, I said, knowing it was impossible. I am Sid. I was actually afraid of asking help for anyone in town for fear they'd tell Jen where I was and I'd be dragged back. I was scared to the point of shaking. I did not want to go anywhere near them. I was afraid because I knew how much they'd figured me out. I knew if I was left alone, I might be talked into going back, so I was scared. But I told Sid what had happened, kind of, and asked if I could stay at his house for maybe a night or something. Sid is my fucking saint for what he did. I may get mad at him for whatever else, but this guy fucking came riding to the rescue. He came into town, not only already taking my mind off it by talking about old RPGs, but offered to pay for some beers, and we had a splendid old time, and I slept on his floor. More or less, he figured out what I was afraid of, and went with me to take my stuff from Jen and Hojo's apartment a few days later. I didn't have a lot. Jen was at the door trying to look like I was betraying her horribly. I knew after I'd left I'd be the next heiress, but I didn't care. I didn't care how many people they had come tell me I was awful. I just wanted out. My poor rat came with us. Just glad to be back with me, I think. And my computer. I was able to use Sid's DSL and, oh God heaven, truth. I could tell the truth. I had all my stuff and I was out of there. I called my father using, I think, Sid's phone. Finally able to tell him most of what happened. I didn't want to tell him everything because it sounded so crazy. But he had about 30 seconds before he got my uncle on AIM, and we were ordering my plane tickets to Alabama. I was getting out. I made friends with Sid apartment mates, Jay and his fiancée, Shell. We all got along really well, and Shell went off on Jen about 10,000 times. Shell also took me to a supermarket and told me to buy whatever I wanted. I probably would have cried, but I was too far in shock. All I wanted was potato bread and ramen. I had not eaten either of those the entire time I'd stayed here, even though my money had paid for the food bill. I got to the bus station on time, using money Sid lent that my dad would pay him back to ride to the airport. I took a flight. I had a pair of $2 painful flip-flops on, and they were swabbed for explosives. There are a few drawings of Kyo back from this time, most notably, which was from when my shoes were stolen and I was wandering barefoot, and this, when I kicked over a can of lemonade in the airport and was just too brain-dead exhausted to stand it back up. After a week of eating like a wolf at my dad's, can you say 4 chicken breasts and 2 wings? I knew that you could. We road trip back to State College where we would camp out along the way. The summer was so hot, the road actually caused my father's car engine to overheat. We had to take it to a repair shop because the valley heat fucked it up that much. And I had been walking to work in the same heat every day with no wire and no protection. My dad did not get to meet Sid, who was at work, but did meet Shell. He paid Shell and we packed up my things. I left Sid with a note, I think, and was gone. I was out. Jen tried calling me once after that, but I blocked her number on my cell shortly after. She tried telling me we were still friends and she still looked for my shoes. I was having none of it. I'm some sort of villain to them now, but I have no clue what nor do I really care. I must have some sort of magical evil power in their eyes, but I don't know. I was finished with them, and I will be forever. Unfortunately, that's not the end of the story for other people.
That's right. So after this entire epic story, this is the the first of many. This would continue. There is a website. Now it's demon-sushi.com. It used to be hojo.org. But the public warning on the front here, the following pages are a compiled list of stories and data about a group of individuals on the internet who prey on unsuspecting fans of various video games, TV shows, and movies. They take money, time, self-worth, self-confidence, sanity, and freedom away from those they target, sucking them into a schizophrenic, constructed fantasy cult based around the things they once loved. This is 100% non-fictional. There is some pretty sick stuff in here, violence, sexuality, physical abuse, etc., so please beware. I wish this was a joke, but thanks to the internet, it's not. So, there are so many more. It is so fucking sad. There is a great summary that the folks at the Human Experience, HEX, did. So, yes, the website is still running 15 years later. Again, Human Experience writing here. And Icarus regularly gets messages asking him to validate suspected sightings of Jennifer Cornett, but past that, he's moved on. Icarus now lives in Massachusetts. He's been running a popular webcomic for a couple of years. Got married in 2011. Diagnosed with stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma, but in remission 2019. That is by the way, the comic reference there is inhuman-comic.com. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's still up. 786-page study in ink, paper, and paint. Sci-fi opera webcomic. So that's real fun. And yes, it is a furry comic.
Of course it is. Why would it be anything else?
But at the same time, I mean, you know, somebody who went through some real serious shit trying to kind of channel it into this epic sci-fi story. And the comic came out in 2003, about a year after this whole experience. On the website are also many, many other people who kind of came in and came out of that. There was someone else who lived in the apartment in 2005, so 3 years after this guy's, and they also got kind of sucked in. Moved in with Jen, was able to stay. Jen has some pretty bizarre ideas about what she thinks she is, who she thinks her ancestors are, and what, quote, special powers she thinks she has. Jen is a vampire hunter, a term she has made her own definition for, except when she is a vampire herself, and not just any vampire, but a master vampire. Oh, and she was going to be the new vampire slayer, except she got turned into a vampire instead. Oops. She is queen of the fairies that live in the backyard and the local park. You'd think being queen would take up all of her time, but it seems that she also has the time to be the incarnation of death. Yes, she believes she is personally responsible for everyone who dies. She must be getting all of this from her time magic that she can do because she controls the flow of time. She is also the Witch King and has control over legions of Dark Riders from Lord of the Rings who do her bidding. She is also a P12 plus telepath, a la Babylon 5, and can read people's minds. So, Jen thinks she is Morrigan Le Fay, who she incidentally is also a descendant of, Laura Croft, Integra Helsing, Alucard from Helsing, everyone from the Incredibles cartoon, Arwen from Lord of the Rings, Genova from FF7, Sephiroth, Cloud, and Zack, also from FF7, Ultimecia from Final Fantasy, who also happens to be her mother, Garnet Steiner from FF8, quite a bit of the cast of Babylon 5, Buffy Summers, Angel Spike, Drusilla the Master, Willow, Xander, and anyone else she thinks is cool from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So here's some wonderful photos from her time living with Jen. Here's the bathroom of the,
oh,
the house.
wow.
A wine bottle on the floor, Reynolds wrap, random loofah hanging out there. Now, I don't know if they ever did get a cat in the house, but there's the box of Tidy Cats with a bunch of laundry in the corner. And a trash bag, random UPS boxes on the floor, a bookshelf with nothing on it.
There's lots of crap around it, though.
Right.
Stuff that could go on the bookshelf.
A bed with no sheets on.
Oh, classic.
Not as bad as the mattress on the floor, but, you know, pretty bad. A laundry basket with nothing in it, and just random networking crap strewed on the floor. On hardwood floors, no less. You know, just like random crap. An ironing board that no one clearly used. 2 bottles of Tide, probably empty. Lysol spray, because, you know, as Icarus mentioned, it probably stinks in there. A stepladder, which isn't being used for anything but to hold a singular plant, some box, and a bucket of stuff. Very odd. So Mela continues, I just had something scary happen. This is November 2005. I just had something scary happen. I just heard a chorus of people saying just because she bought expensive bubble bath doesn't mean she used it. Like 2 other people said that at the same time. I finally figured out how to get Jen to bathe. I would tell her she smelled like vampire, and she would go and shower so that no one would know. I think it was genius. The purple thing, again mentioned by the original poster, wore far beyond repair. I had to replace all but the patterned panels of it. Renee took the old velvet and used it as an altar cloth, but oops, she left it here when she moved out. I used a piece of it to make Jen the voodoo doll. Jen has been baking in the sun for over a month. Jen will soon be going down to spend some time in the haunted basement. Did I mention I'm a bitch? I think it's justified. It's kind of late and my girlfriend wants me to go to bed, but I'm normally up till near dawn. I'm a stripper and I work nights only. Oh, that's another thing. How Jen pressured me into being a stripper. How Jen thought she looked good enough to dance. I had a good job working for a bank, but that wasn't enough for Jen. I wasn't making enough money, even though I was making more money than she was being given, so they pressured me into being a stripper. It ended up being a good thing. I love my job, but still, you don't pressure your friends into working in the sex industry unless you work in the sex industry. This type of, there's so much more. If you have a moment, demon-sushi.com.
Yeah, this is almost like something we could do a 2-parter on.
It really does feel like, because there's...
Yeah, there's the Vice article, there's so much.
There's Kat and Reno and Maya also. There's a bunch of anonymous letters. Oh, Jen's bio of herself is real fun. Hi, my name is Jen, and I help rehabilitate vampires and assist in spiritual awakenings. I also take care of metaphysical emergencies, and oh yeah, I do exorcisms and vanishings too. I'm quite versed in ancient ritual, and I often use my own blood to seal spells. I'm not Catholic, but I'm not Wiccan. God talks to me and tells me that the end of the world is at hand, she says. I'm married to Metatron, and oh yes, I'm the physical embodiment of the angel Uriel. In past lives, I've been Integra Van Helsing, Sephiroth, and Delando Albato, among others. I've been to many therapists, and they all keep telling me I'm okay. Yeah, not a good sane person. Now, apparently, Jen has been continuing this all, by the way. Jen has switched fandoms, switched places. Most recently for the fandom for the TV series Hannibal.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This, according to the True Crime Wiki here. Tattle Crime was a fan site focusing on the Hannibal TV series. A Tumblr blog called The Truth About Tattle Crime was created and began posting accusations about the person in charge, Jennifer Cornett. The blog claimed that the anonymous fanatic thinks she is the character Freddie Lowndes and had been scamming fans and abusing her staffers. Specific allegations included staffers entering San Diego Comic-Con 15 with fake tickets, rigging prize giveaways, reneging on gift exchanges, brainwashing, grooming, and sexual harassment. At some point, the owner of the blog set up their own website. The harassment and strange behavior has been linked to Final Fantasy VII House and infamous fan Jennifer Cornett, causing the story to become widely known outside of the fandom. And so, yes, she's still at it. And there was even a wonderful little reenactment on YouTube by a guy named Punished Bread called Midgar Syndrome, the Final Fantasy House, which, if you haven't seen it, this is a very fun reenactment. It is based on the text we just read. Dark and fucked up.
Just, yeah. I remember the first time I read this, it was, of course, from a Something Awful thread.
Yes.
And it was,
the first one I read it in, the title of the thread was a GBS thread, and it was, "You think furries are bad?"
Yeah, there was a couple of Fiad threads that were both oddly empathetic, because empathy is not a thing you would get a lot out of Fiad.
No.
People just being like, wow, what a terrible thing this guy went through.
Yeah, they tell him a bunch of slurs and just,
Yeah, but also lots of Schadenfreude.
Oh, sure. There were some moments reading that I was like, okay, this part's kind of funny, or like there's a bit here where I can see the humor. Few and far between, but Yeah, it's a grim tale. And again, this is just scratching the surface.
This definitely speaks to a time of my life where I was piss fucking broke and wasn't on some level probably too far from some of the circumstances in one way or another that are described in this tale. And I was also like in my early 20s. And whoo boy, yeah, just like real hot couch shit.
Do you think Jen's weird magic would have worked on you?
No, absolutely not.
No? Okay.
No.
Well, that's good. Because I don't know. Early college, it's hard to tell. You really don't know until you're put in that situation. But I feel like, yeah, that might have worked on me. At least in some way. I'm like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm Zach, whatever, okay. So it's a cautionary tale, I guess. Don't let charismatic or even just really weird people control you in this way, I guess. I don't know. Just looking over your shoulder while you message people, and like, there's just so many rich details in just that part of the story. It's stunning every time I read it, because I have read it once or twice. Something tells me there's even more that this writer is not saying. You know what I mean?
It feels like it's a little selective, either out of embarrassment or the fact that it like would be too much for people to believe.
I was gonna say, like, people wouldn't believe it. Yeah. But I mean, it's already plenty weird, you know, past life regression stuff and like, you know, soul bonding and all that. Oh boy.
Soul bonding. Amazing.
You know, weren't they that band that did the song about the bonbons? Yeah, soul bonding. Well, I know after that it's really not a good idea to show you something gross, but it's time. Shock.jpg.
Is it time for Shock.jpg?
It is.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Shock.jpg.
Shock.jpg time is brought to you this week by our new patron who goes by the name of Thea. Thank you, Thea, for joining us this week with your membership. Thank you.
Did they join at the $10?
They did not.
They don't want the puke vid.
They do not want the puke video, but you know what? That's fine. So this one is called You've
done the opposite of burying the lead.
I know. I've started calling it "Where Are Your Balls?" So it's
the iPhone capture screen is
at
really...
the end. Yeah.
All right, can we do that one more time? Chat, is this real?
Chat, let's run this back. So it's a 7-second video of a gentleman walking into frame.
He freaked himself out.
Oh, yeah. In what is a very small bathroom, because that door in that tub is very, very tiny.
No, yeah, you would have to put your balls in your ass. Because that bathroom was so small.
They walk into frame, put one foot on the toilet, and then relax their ass, and at which point both of their balls slide out of their ass like a...
in slow motion.
Oh, yeah, because there's a little bounce.
There's like a ripple. It's like it's oddly hypnotic. Watching one nut and then the second nut just roll out of the asshole in the scrotum.
Let's take it in slow motion.
You're manually manipulating the timeline.
I am. Bloop.
Whoop.
Boing.
Amazing. It's truly art.
And this guy's clearly so proud of himself. I got them both in.
Mom! Yeah. Look what I can do.
Check this shit out. Well, because, I mean, he filmed it.
I want to see the kid across the street do this.
Exactly. Yeah, well, you said my dad could beat up your dad? Yeah, well, can your dad do this? I think we can see that one more time. What do you think?
I should have done that in front of the guy that came to my house yesterday.
Walk up in power stance. I'm like,
that's power stance. Just shit Boom. My balls out my own ass. All right, you're going to take my name off that list.
You're going to do it or else. Check this out.
I'll do this again.
See you in 10 minutes, motherfucker. I'm going to do this again. A very stretchy sack, I will say that.
Amazing sack game on that gentleman. Nice hog, too.
Oh, yeah. It kind of goes by the wayside because you're so focused on the balls of the ass.
You don't realize it's a perfectly respectable hog.
It's
because
just,
the nuts are so mesmerizing.
Goes right past you. Yeah, you didn't even notice it. Very clean as well. Nothing, you know.
No hair.
No hair. No doo-doo coming out with the balls, so that's always nice.
It is always a plus. He's not going to be pissing blood.
Oh, God, the UTI guy from last week. Jesus Christ. Because now there's all these people saying, like, yeah, that's a way, you had gay sex, haha. It's like, well, there's a million ways to get a UTI that aren't.
I would say there's a million ways to have gay sex.
Well, there's that, too. It doesn't have a title. It was a 4chan thing, once again. And I've been calling it, Where Are Your Balls?
It's as a fair assessment.
Where are they?
They're right here in my ass.
Check this out. Again, he's so proud. I would be, too, honestly, if I could get them both up there. I think that'd be different.
Yeah.
Them's my balls, honey. Check it out. Boop, boop, boop. See, and the thing is, there's no sound. And so you don't know if they made a sound. It probably was pretty quiet. I mean, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's not like...
You're not gonna do that. It'd have to be a very different kind of story if they were like...
You don't hear like the wind changing in the house or something from... the pressure has changed in the house.
Yeah.
It's not like you have like a window open in the far room and there's a draft.
And the door slams when you do it. Yeah. Well, that said, I think after both the Final Fantasy VII House story and the balls in the ass, it's definitely time for a Breath Mint Brian.
It's time for your mom's favorite part of the show. It's time for the Breath Mint.
Oh, baby. What do you got for us this week, brother? Or this week?
Yeah, I ain't got much. It's been we've recorded twice in 1 week.
That's
which is
true.
A little rare for us. So I haven't had my refactory period for podcasting hasn't necessarily completed itself.
It's true, yeah.
I listened to the new Chat Pile record.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about this.
It's fucking heavy. It's sick. It's like if a bunch of dudes were doing fucking CrossFit in an old warehouse, just fucking chain smoking and listening to an audiobook of Cormac McCarthy's The Road.
Hell yeah.
And then they made a record.
All right. It's like a Piss Jeans vibe is what I'm getting from when you describe it like that.
It's just real fucking heavy and bleak and dystopian. It's almost like it's like a serial killer's manifesto or something. Like
Okay.
It's really atmospheric in pretty much every aspect. I'm having fun with it. Some of my coworkers are like, "Oh, it's cool," and I'm like, "You can just say you don't like it."
Yeah.
Guy in the bolt thrower shirt. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the heavy music I like, and you like the heavy music you like. That's fine. It's one of my favorite records of the year so far, just because it's like its own thing. Like I don't really have a huge frame of reference for where it's inspired or where it's coming from. The closest thing I can really say is like a local band here in St. Louis called Hell Night.
Hell Night, yeah.
Where at least the early stuff with their original vocalist Mike C felt really unique and abrasive, kind of like telling you a story where you're not getting all the details and you're not sure if you really want to know all of them because what you're getting is so distressing but still illustrative.
Yeah, well, I mean, I reviewed that one when I was still writing for 11, and I think the first line of the review was something along the lines of, it's a record that is like being dragged to the riverside by a bunch of teamsters and having your teeth methodically taken out with a lead pipe, but set to music. Yeah, that's how I felt about that record. So if it's anything like that, Chat Pile is up my alley, because that was complimentary.
Yeah. The new record's called Cool World.
Okay.
I'm really into it. I was listening to it on the way here. I'll probably listen to it on the way home.
Hell yeah. Writing that down for myself so I don't forget. Because yeah, I mean, I heard some stuff of theirs, but I didn't really even realize the new one was out. You told me about it, but
yeah, I'm like kind of fucking bummed because they were here in St. Louis off Broadway. I want to say like back in March or April, and I kind of wanted to go, but didn't. And now having like gotten into this record, I'm kind of kicking myself.
Well, yeah, I get it.
What you got, Chief?
I'm reading a new book. I just finished one that Keanu Reeves co-wrote. It's Keanu Reeves and China Mieville. They did a comic book series called Berserker a while back. And then this is a prose kind of a companion piece called The Book of Elsewhere. Book of Elsewhere was pretty cool. It's about a guy who's an immortal who wants to be mortal. But there's also this immortal pig. It's a whole book about like mythology and like what it means to be human. And it's interesting and it's gross and it's not funny, but like, well, kind of, I guess. It's got this gallows humor in some parts of the book. And like it opens with a member of this special forces team fucking putting on a suicide vest and walking into this meeting room and trying to kill this immortal guy. And so the immortal guy is the only one that survives. It's like, fuck, dude. This is how the book opens? It's a roller coaster. And you can kind of tell what parts Keanu wrote and what parts Mieville wrote, but it all comes together pretty damn well. And I'm really surprised at Keanu Reeves' skill as a writer. And I was like, okay, fuck, is there nothing he can't do? I mean, he played bass, he's in all these movies, you know.
Motorcycle guy.
Yeah. Apparently an excellent marksman, like not just for the movies, but like he goes and he does all this marksman stuff because he learned it for the movies, but then it just kept doing it. He surfs, like there's nothing he can't do.
Just like, what a cool guy. Like donates a lot of his money to like cancer research.
Yeah.
Like
insane. It's one of those things where it's like, man, I hope nothing ever comes out about him. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I've got this.
God, what if he was at one of these freak offs?
I don't feel very comfortable. I gotta go.
Yeah, I think that's who's in my ass.
It's not Shatner. What are you doing? Who's that? Back there. Anyway, but then I also started because I read a lot of books. I'm on track to beat my record this year. Last year, I read 26 books. This year, I'm already at 24. Hopefully, I'm going to beat it by the end of this year. So, book number 25 this year is Grady Hendrix. I don't know how familiar you are with Grady Hendrix's work. Have you read any?
I know the name, but that's about it.
All right. So, Grady Hendrix wrote the Final Girl Support Group. It's a book that treats slasher films as though they were real, and all the survivors of all the slasher films have a support group, and then someone starts picking them off one by one.
Okay, I'm into that.
He wrote a book called How to Sell a Haunted House, which is, it's like, it starts out as a haunted house story, and then it quickly becomes like about possessed objects, which is fascinating. But this one's called Horrorstor, with an umlaut over the third O. Because it is about what is essentially a haunted house story set in an IKEA. Conceptually, it's really great. You know, you've got this store that's already set up like a maze, like an IKEA. They actually reference that, yeah, this is actually a knockoff IKEA called Orsk that's based in Minneapolis. Even the layout of the pages looks like the catalog. Like there's some really... Whoever helped Grady with the layout of these pages, just phenomenal. It's a real slim volume. You'll get through it pretty quick, but it's great. It has all these really fun characterizations, and it kind of feels like there's a character, this could just be in my head, but like there's a character that feels like he wrote it specifically for Giancarlo Esposito. And I don't know why. Really? Like just certain like verbal mannerisms. And like, I hear this in my head as Giancarlo Esposito. All the characters feel very real, just like a lot of Hendrix's other stuff. Like everything I've read of theirs. But I love horror authors that can kind of goof off with genre. Like, oh yeah, here's a haunted house story, but we set it in an IKEA. Here's an idea of, you know, we're going to turn this into that. I really think that they're an up-and-comer. If you haven't read them yet, get in now, because they're about maybe a book or two away from blowing up. Because they've gotten a bunch of blurbs on the front cover from Stephen King already, you know, But again, Stephen King will blurb for anyone. I was gonna say
he's a fucking mensch.
But his blurbs kind of helped a lot of people pick up a Clive Barker book, so you know, there's a bit of an effect there.
Yeah,
I always like reading, you know, voices that maybe you don't hear from that often. The other guy who did the Indian Lake trilogy, Stephen Graham Jones. I knew it was like a Lee Harvey Oswald. It was a three name person. Stephen Graham Jones. Their most recent book, Angel of Indian Lake. That's on my list. Hopefully that'll be book 26. That'll send my year off right. But yeah, the first two, boy, My Heart is a Chainsaw and Don't Fear the Reaper. I've talked about both of them on this show already. Hopefully the end of this trilogy, fantastic. But yes, can't get enough of the Grady Hendrix. Cannot wait for whatever else they got come next. Well, actually, I think my last book of the year might be the last Area X Southern Reach book by Jeff Vandermeer, which comes out.
I heard the prequel came out. Yeah,
that's coming out soon. Yeah, it's maybe a day or two away. We're almost there. So who knows? Anything else?
No, I am really boring.
That's all right. Me too.
It's just I was gonna photograph the military gun show at Platypus, which is like a small bar here, but it's sold out.
Oh no!
And it's $25 tickets to see. $25 tickets to see a band I really wanted to see, but at a room I don't want to see them in. So I'm just gonna wait till next time. I really wish they were at Off Broadway or somewhere else. It's weird to be like, that's the only place they could get booked because they probably did it on short notice. They probably should have maybe booked out 6 months like smart people and could have had like a real fucking killer Halloween show. But, you know, whatever. I've only been adjacent to the fucking industry for 15 or so years.
Yeah, what do you know?
Yeah. You know. You just got done touring with Queens of the Stone Age. You came out with a record last year. It's really well reviewed. Have done all kinds of cool shit. You're going to play this market for the first time, and you're going to play literally like a fucking bar that shouldn't have shows in it. Because the owner is really more interested in having DJ nights, so you're gonna have a DJ. Every single time there's any quiet between your songs, you're going to hear a DJ in the other room. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably.
Talk to us.
It's probably some guy with really shitty sunglasses playing like a Cramps song at the wrong RPM or some shit. If I really had to.
That feels right. That feels accurate.
It's the fucking Grove, man. Nothing there makes sense. Yeah, I don't really have too much coming up. Like, I got some stuff in November, but September and October just beat my ass as far as
Let's say you were out every night.
Fucking felt like it. I need a little rest, but there's still some stuff. I know Foxing's playing a show next month.
Mm-hmm.
Microwave is headlining a show at Del Mar Hall that I definitely want to photograph, and there's a couple other small things. But
Ultimate Fake Book will be here in about a week. Yeah.
Oh shit! I think it's the same day as Foxing.
Probably.
Because it's St. Louis. You can't have...
you can't have...
You can't have two really sick shows one day apart.
No.
You have to have six... You have to have three really great shows at the same day
night,
so they cannibalize each other. And then everyone's like, why didn't we make any money?
Mountain Goats and Motorhead, I think, was the last one that I had to choose between. And I chose Mountain Goats, and then Lemmy died. So...
I mean, I chose between Cursive and Gladdy, a band that I'm like kind of obsessed with. I chose Psychedelic Furs and Jesus and the Mary Chain over that, and
legacy band. I think it's fine.
Jesus and the Mary Chain were kind of underwhelming, unfortunately. It was their first show in St. Louis in over 30 years. Psychedelic Furs were fucking amazing.
Yeah, that's what you were saying last week. Yeah,
but yeah. Foxing and Ultimate Fake Book are the same day, so now I gotta make a choice because again, can't have two cool shows like a day apart.
Sophie's choice.
Yeah.
I guess we could split up. Well, while we figure this out...
While we figure out how to unfuck our lives.
We're going to tell you where to find us online. Brian.
Oh, boy. Boy. If you want to find me on Twitter, it's iShotGuidibord, ISHOTGUIDBORD. If you want to find me on Instagram, it's a music photographer. If you want to check out a website that it's never going to work again, it's musicphotographer.com. If you want to check out my portfolio website, which is never going to go down because it's going to live forever, like Will Arnett and that human giant skit that everyone forgets exists.
Yeah.
It's been all scrubbed from the internet except for the MTV2 Facebook account, which is so fucking weird.
Someone's got to have it.
Will Arnett saying, I'm going to live forever as he's getting fisted by his own fist or something.
Just beautiful.
Yeah. It looks like my fist. Yeah, I modeled it off. It's Aziz Ansari as McConaughey. Yes. Amazing, incredibly un-PG skit by everyday standards, but amazing piece of art.
I stand by it. Yes.
Yeah, it is fucking amazing. But anyways, it's going to live forever like Will Arnett getting fisted. If you want to check out the last and only good media website left in St. Louis, you can head over to theartsstl.com. Yes. Maybe one day I will finally finish the Gel, the Pitbull, the Boris, and the Mannequin Pussy piece I all owe Jason Green.
One of these days.
We'll see if I can sit still long enough to be alone with my thoughts and maybe put some words down. From some people in my life are saying, not likely because I like it that way. As I'm running from the pros,
Yep.
Jason, where can they find you?
Oh boy, you can find me a number of places. Most of them I am Videocrime, VIDEOCRIME. My particular favorite right now is Blue Sky, big fan of that. You can also find me as part of another podcast that's not this one. It's called Submitted for the Approval of the Midnight Pals. There I play a fictionalized version of Stephen King. And new episodes are coming soon for season 2. I cannot wait.
Gonna be sick.
There is a musical episode.
Really?
Right, there's a musical. Sadly, I did not get any parts to sing, but there is a musical episode based on the old story Rebecca. So if you know what I'm talking about, it's a good time. There's an entire episode about. Let's see here. We did Hellraiser. We did a Hellraiser episode. We did a Candyman little mini episode. There's a lot of stuff coming up in this season. I'm very excited about. It's going to be happening very soon. So keep your eyes out for that. That is midnight-pals.simplecast.com or pretty much anywhere else the podcast is sold. You're going to find them there.
Yeah.
You can contact this show in a number of ways. My personal favorite is the telephone, 314-246-9766. That's 314-AHOY POO, if you like to spell with your telephone. You can also shoot us an email, Jason at 4 minutesofdogsbarking.com, or Brian with a Y at 4 minutesofdogsbarking.com. Minutes of Bogs Barking.
Barking.
And you can also shoot us a message, patreon.com/48minutesofdogs, just like Thea, our new patron. Welcome again. But I would also urge you, wherever you get your podcasts, to leave a review, because we love to read reviews of the show. Here's one from a gentleman who calls himself Mr. Fart over at Podchaser. Quote, "Despite not being from the U.S., I enjoy this podcast a lot." So
we'll take it.
Thank you, Mr. Fart. So if you do that thing, please let us know. Shoot us an email. Let us know. Hey, I put a review up here. We'll read it on the show. We love it.
You know, I always love reading these because they really balance out the number of people that say that, like, this podcast makes me want to KYS.
Well, there's that. Yeah. Well, if that's the case,
or KMS, I suppose.
If they wish we would KYS. Anyway, it's a whole thing.
Everyone needs to die.
I did also see one. It was really funny. I'm trying to find it here. Yeah. It's subject: loving 48 minutes dogs barking. Hi, name. Like, they literally put, I'm loving 48 minutes of dogs barking. I just listened to your episode with guest about topic and found it super interesting. Thanks for putting it out there. Well, thank you, anonymous listener, whoever you are. So that was good.
Amazing. I'm so glad they took the time.
Thank you once again. So, like I said, patreon.com/48 minutes of dogs. There you will find our weekly post-show hangouts called Thanks I Hate It, The Mind Zone, various other things that we can think of. I'm still thinking about putting together that cooking blog called 48 Minutes of Dogs Cooking, things like that. We've also got, if you get in before the end of the year at the $10 level, you do get yourself the 90-minute commentary track on the Japanese puke fetish video called Garo Monster Home Delivery. It is time, people.
Folks, we're run down to the wire. For just $14.88. Gosh, we're offering this crazy price. I can't believe they're letting me say it. I kid you not. There is I fucking at one in the lunchrooms at work. They had the My Pillow commercial where he kept saying $14.88 over. He's like, "Can you believe they're letting me say it?"
Yeah, I can, Mike.
Yeah,
actually.
God, that was one of those moments where it's like, I know I have to get up really early for this job, but that can't just be my brain stroking out.
No, yeah,
that
this can't be real.
It can't be like
no, because we covered it when it first came out.
Yeah,
and we're like, this was a put on. Somebody fucked her. No, it was very real. I mean, I went to the MyPillow.com.
You even ordered the pillows, and
I did not. No. Libel. It's a deep fake. It's AI.
You got 4 sets. One for your wife, and your 2 kids.
Nope.
Wow, these pillows are really mind comfy.
Nope.
All right. You ready to start fucking this chicken?
Yeah, all right, let's do it. So, as we always say at this time, namaste, good luck. Give mommy a good gut fucking 25th Amendment now. Who ate all the pussy?
Eat the knife.
Ah, yes.